And we've made it to theme number 5. Congratulations. We're now talking about social structure. Basic progression of social structure. We can see it in 2 tiers now. We're going to add a 3rd tier in a little bit. But for now, we basically start with patriarchy. Men are in charge. Guess what? That doesn't ever change in the societies that we're looking at, in the time periods that we're looking at. There are some small exceptions to this rule. You should be aware of them in each society. So do pay attention to times when, in the various regions, men lost power. It's a temporary thing, but it's worth paying attention to. In terms of the basic social structure, going back to hunting and gathering again, we're going to see family relations, family kinship ties and all that sort of stuff make up the basic social structure for human beings, and that is tied to age and gender. Okay? So the older you are, the more status you have. The more male you are, the more status you have. We then move into a situation once we have agricultural and pastoral productions. Here's the link to economics. We start seeing those who have and those who have not. This does not last very long. This gets turned over pretty quickly, and we start seeing a system where we have ruling elites, priests or warriors, kind of interchangeably. Some societies put more stress on fighting than praying, and others. And we have peasantry, and the peasantry will be a through line through all of this. Underlying that is slavery and notions of debt leading to slavery. You do want to be paying attention to the causes of slavery in the different regions that we've studied. And slaves are going to be an ongoing concern right up through, really, the 20th century. In the last step there is the development of, we'll call them the specialists, the merchants, the artisans, the people who create particular goods and services that are valuable. They inject themselves into this social structure, and there's a great deal of turmoil that we'll see show up eventually. Right now I have them here because in most cases, for much of the societies that we look at, or for many of the societies we look at, they tend to fall below the priests and the warriors. That gets stood on its head during the post-classical era, though, so that's a change at the very end of all this. You do want to pay attention to expressions of patriarchal dominance. How are women subjugated in these societies? What are they allowed to do versus what are they not allowed to do? Do they bind feet? Are they required to die when their husband dies? Is there a dowry? All that sort of stuff you need to pay attention to. There are many expressions of patriarchal dominance. Make sure you're aware of them. Other thing to pay attention to, are there opportunities for social mobility? Can people move up or down the ladder as they go? So, we look at education as a major shaper of people's social opportunity. The role of religion, being more or less pious in a society, can change your opportunities. And conflict. In a lot of societies, serving in the military and serving well, fighting well, leads to greater social opportunity. That notion of slavery, underlying everything. Make sure you're aware of how each society talks about slaves. We do see that it is a normal phenomenon for human beings to believe they should own each other. That does change, and that causes a lot of guilt, but it's still something that's been in existence for hundreds of years, not thousands of years. And then finally we have revolting peasants. The peasants are always revolting. Why do they revolt? What's the cause of social turmoil, and how does it get resolved? Here's a hint. At no point do the peasants ever rise above their current status at the bottom of the heap socially. So, pay attention in each society. Where do peasants revolt? How do peasants revolt? What are they revolting about? And is it ever resolved? Most often the answer to that last question is no. So there you have it. Social structure becomes more complicated with the advent of the transatlantic slave trade. We'll see how that changes, but for now, go back through each society. Make sure you can find examples along the way of how the social structure constructs itself. The looking at the mobility and the patriarchal dominance will be critical for you on this test.